Okay, folks, welcome to another episode of Faywatch. Dina here with Will and Rachel. And we are super excited today because we get to talk some consummation. We get to talk.
Finally.
I know, finally. We get to talk final trial. Also, Rachel has finally finished the book, so me and Will can.
Wait, is that true? Have you actually finished it?
It is true. Yeah, I finished it.
So
there's so many more things we can talk about.
Yeah.
Will and I can stop giving each other like looks across the Zoom screen. There's a lot to get into. Will's a bit hungover today, but I believe in you, sweet Will boy boss. You're
Putting me on blast.
He's so brave, though.
No, you're so
For
brave.
even showing up.
Yeah, you are essentially entering the trial of human life. So
Exactly. This is Will's trial.
And with that, Rach, would you like to take us away?
I would absolutely love to. If I could summarize chapter 44 in one word, it would be sex.
you're welcome for you having that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, I pulled this straw. I don't know if it's a short straw or maybe a considerably long straw.
Yeah,
but
I was
here we
going to
are.
say very long and thick
Magnificently
Wow.
long.
Wow. So let's kind of remember where we were. We need to kind of ease ourselves in here. We really need to kind of get cozy. We last left our lovebirds making out in an alleyway. They're really getting after it. They're getting handsy. But Rain says he doesn't want to, quote, fuck her for the first time in an alleyway 3 feet from a pile of entrails. Which is fair, right?
That's fair. Wait, you know what I love about this, though, Rachel, is that I was just rereading this, and he says that, but she's kind of like, I don't know, like, I mean, I would have, and...
Exactly.
And I'm in, my Yellow Jackets phase of life right now, and that connects and makes sense to me. Like, I feel like, I don't know if you watch, but I feel like Shauna, of these Yellow Jackets, like, that's the kind of same vibe.
Yeah, that's actually a good comparison point. Like, that's sort of the state of mind that we're in right now when we're Araya. Like, we're very Yellow Jackets. Like, things are kind of a little bit off the rails right now.
Yeah, she's murdering people. She's, making her feel a little hot and heavy.
Well, also,
Exactly.
I feel like, it's important to remember she's, 23 or something, and just what 23-year-old brain does to you. There's something where... they have their little thing where he's like, give me something honest or whatever. And she's like, the most terrible honest thing of all was that with Rain, it was all honest. He understood every complexity and senseless duality. It's like...
Senseless duality.
How
What does
many
that even
senseless
mean?
dualities do you have?
Like, literally, what does that mean? That means absolutely nothing.
I think she's so complex and she's so deep and,
Yeah, unique.
it's so unique. I mean, I guess she actually is in this world, but,
Yeah. And you know that you're 23 when it's like, if it's me, 32-year-old, you have you just finished a trial and you have like a huge one in like, what, 12 hours or whatever. I'm getting my Z's in.
Yeah.
I'm getting that sleep. But
no, you're drinking
23.
your sleepy time tea. You're, making sure your clothes for the next day are laid out and folded. That's not what she's up to.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to physically exert myself all night. Let's do this.
Next to entrails, if need be.
Yes. So anyways, yeah, the vibes are good. Rain, they're short on time, so he flies them back to the old apartment. They're really making out while they're flying, which seems a little bit logistically difficult, a little bit dangerous, but very hot.
Yeah, it's like don't text and drive. Probably don't make out. And...
Do you think his eyes were open? I bet his eyes were open, like creepily.
They'd have to be, right?
I mean, it'd be kind of irresponsible if they weren't. So yeah, that's interesting. But I guess
they make it back
say,
just in time, obviously. Like just before
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
as they always must. Yeah.
They always do. So yeah, they're back. I will note, kind of preliminarily, we do get confirmation that wings in this universe are also erogenous zones, as they
Important.
are in many. Yeah,
Good
exactly. Erogenous zones. I mean, how else? I don't know how else you'd describe that. If
No, I
not
think
an
that's
erogenous
perfect.
zone. But
And thank God, I would have been so upset if they weren't.
I agree. It's one of those things, okay? We'll say, I mean, I know at least in the SJM world, wings are also erogenous zones, probably in other books as well. So it's definitely a staple, and it again, it can be very hot. Again, not to be sort of Lil Miss Negative Nancy over here, but I will say, like, I do often wonder, you know, because they're so sensitive, like a mere brush, and they're like,
right.
So you do kind of wonder in other circumstances. It's just like I wonder
like
about
when you're
that.
flying. Yeah.
Or like when you're like in battle and like, you
Right.
know, are you just, or maybe you're just not in that frame of mind. And so,
Right.
I don't know.
I guess maybe it is contextual in that sense. I guess that checks out. But important, I obviously think that although, so Rain says we'll save those for another time.
Book 2.
So we're not, what? Book 2, exactly.
Book 2, the sequel, presumably.
And he vanishes them away. So I do think we sort of have that to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, putting that
book
on the
2.
list. My personal list.
It's on
as they
Rain's
say.
long list. Yeah. A lot of wing play. So back in the Pied à Terre, they're ready to go to the bone zone, if I may use such a disgusting phrase. I don't know why I
That's
said that.
beautiful. It's
It
poetic.
can be so crude.
I know, I'm sorry. And Rain is suddenly like, wait, Araya, is your first time? And
Okay, come on now.
yeah, well, she tells him no. And again, pausing on sort of the genre aspect of it, I think we have to say, okay, we are glad. We do love a story where our girl boss is not a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's the preference. So I do think, like, Carissa gets points for not virgin, but then I think she also gets some points subtracted because literally her only sexual experience with another person was, like, turned into an assault. So that's that's not the best.
I do think it's like even sort of outside the kind of new fantasy romance subgenre. A big thing of white men writing fantasy back in the day was like you have one female character. Her purpose is to fall in love with the male protagonist, and she's a virgin, and that's like a big moment for him. You know?
Yeah.
Also, Will, thank you for that
And-
context because I don't really read men who write fantasy.
Right. Same. I've heard tell of them, but
I've heard some people like
personally-
them, but, you know, couldn't be me.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, Rain does all of his good things that he's been doing. He tells her she's safe, she's in control, they can take all the time she needs, all that good stuff. So once again, Consent King,
Right.
He's getting a good grade on that.
Yep.
Well done,
Wait,
Rain.
speaking of Consent King, can I just there's a line here that reminded me of so there's something where he's like undressing her and he says, "May I?" Which was triggering for me because freshman year of college, like before school started, part of orientation or whatever was they split the men and the women up to do sex ed or something. And this guy on my floor, who was very weird, he he started explaining about how you have to, like, he's like a true consent king, how you have to ask consent for like every step in the process. And he sort of walked us through it. And he was like, yeah, so like when you want to kiss someone, you say, "May I?" And then when you want to like put your hand on them, you say, "May I?" And you just say, "May I?" like every single possible step all the way through.
Oh, I thought you were going to
This
say
is-
that he told you that you can't say can, you had to say may, because that was grammatically.
No, but it was like literally, he was just like, yeah, you should just say, like, it's hot. Like, girls think it's hot. And I was like,
Girls think it's hot. Okay, Will, what you're describing is called the Antioch something, like the Antioch principles or something. Just like
Oh, it's
for
like a
your
real thing.
edification. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's a
wow.
real thing. I learned it at summer
Like in the
camp.
law? Oh, no, in summer camp. Okay.
No, not in the law. In the law of summer camp. No, it's called Antioch something. I think it probably originates from Antioch College. I don't know. I learned it at my hippie
not like
summer
the
camp.
ancient city.
No, unfortunately, I don't think it dates that far back, that concept of consent. Yeah, that's the Antioch whatever.
I thought it was just, I assumed he had completely made it up because he was just a weird guy. He would do this thing where he would hook up with women, but he would like give them massages to start. And the reason I know this is because he would leave, you had 2 doors like from the hallway to your room, and he would prop both of them open.
What?
And sit on the bed and like give someone a massage while he was staring out into the hallway. And he would then just like make conversation with people as they walked by. And it was the most weird and like.
I have like that. Just
Okay, I don't think we should be taking tips from this man.
No.
Well, that's why I was like, this is some odd. Anyway.
I think he was giving the Antioch whatever sort of a bad name. I think. I think it probably deserves a better representative spokesperson.
Like, for example, Rain. Rain is much better at it.
To bring us back to the text.
Yeah, but wow. Okay, so, we've laid the groundwork, right? Here's what I want to say. I know in previous episodes, we just had this whole talk circa cave scene about how, like, we need to, like, put aside our shame and our embarrassment and let's like talk about these sex scenes, right? I know we said that, and I stand by that.
I feel,
but
I
want to say, to me, there's something a little bit different about just like the P&V sex scene that happens after we've already had our like pre-scene, our cave-esque scene. Like, for some reason, to me, like, I just feel like we don't actually need to give a blow by blow of this, like, very nice. I mean, we're going to talk about it.
No, it's lovely. I think, I think it's.
We're not going to go line by line, I don't think.
Right. I think it's a fantastic scene for, all of our enjoyment whenever we would like to go back and read those scenes. But I agree. Yeah. I don't think we need to, stare at, like, how when people used to, like, consummate their marriage and, like, all the people would, like, go creepily, like, stand outside the door. Like, we don't need to do that to them.
Or
you know
in
what
the
I
room,
mean?
yeah.
Or, like be in the room.
Like, your brother had to be behind the screen or something.
Right. Like, we don't need to do that to them.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it, but it's also very long, I will say. So if we were to go sort of blow by blow, if you will, that would really be long, considerably long, podcast episode. So we're going to touch on some things. I'm going to start out by saying, very nice scene. I really commend it to our readers, our
scene.
listeners. Go read it. If you're just listening along this podcast and you're not reading the book, which I feel like there might be some people who do that, find it. It's pretty cheap. This is a very cheap ebook. So I will commend it to you.
Carissa some dollars.
Yeah, independent author. Go spend the $4 on Kindle or whatever.
Give Jeff Bezos and Carissa your money.
Right. Yeah. Chapter 44. Go check it out. But I'm gonna say it adhered extremely closely to the sort of genre playbook of how this is supposed to go. So let me kind of
walk us through. I don't know a sports metaphor here, but I would say one if I could think of one.
Right, exactly. Something like that. Okay, so as we've discussed in previous episodes, we've already established rule number 1 of the genre, which is that the first sexual encounter is not a sheathing, okay? It's not a P&V, in other words, in case you didn't get the sheathing part, but I think you did. It's not a sheathing. So we got our cave scene. It's almost all, we're not sheathing. When the sheathing eventually occurs, there are also some rules. The first being in that setting, in that scene, it has to be preceded by at least one non-sheathing completion.
At least.
For the lady.
Yep.
For the lady. Ladies
lady
come
first.
Okay?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Always. Okay?
Oh, you mean in the context of that scene?
Yes.
In that scene.
Okay. Yes.
Always.
In that encounter.
Lady must come first. Yes, always.
Okay.
Second, I mean, this is a general rule. Obviously, well, listen, they're ready to go. So we're going. We're going. I'm just gonna leave it at that. That didn't make any sense. But obviously, also as discussed, rule number 2 of this genre, our male protagonist has a considerable length at the very least. Okay?
Of course. Yeah. Considerable to magnificent. So,
yeah, considerable is honestly the floor, it's not the ceiling. And that's definitely the case here. I think we kind of go above considerable here in various ways. So we do usually find, our girl boss usually has a moment of like, wow, this length is extremely considerable. I don't even know like how I'm going to kind of handle all this. All right.
Oh my God, totally. Having just finished A Court of Silver Flames, all I will say is that is certainly
that is the
a thing that we see across fantasy worlds.
Right. So we have that. We almost always have that observation, but then sort of miraculously, some might say, we quickly adjust. We take a moment. We take a moment to adjust, usually, once a sheathing has occurred, and then there's an unleashing, okay?
Yeah, they're like off to the races.
And I will say, great scene all in all, but one word that does stick out to me, and I didn't even need to write it down because it's really just in my brain, I'm seeing it, is he was pistoning in and out of her at a certain point, and
Wait,
I was like,
what?
okay.
I must have skimmed past that.
Pistoning, okay,
like a gun, like
well, I don't know like what, I mean, obviously maybe, but I think it's just like, I don't know actually what the like origins of that is, but it's whatever it is, it seems like pretty kind of like certain
like speed. We're talking
type
about
of
speed
way.
It's
here.
evocative. It's evocative.
Listen, I gotta give it to Carissa because this is a long scene, and I think it must be actually extremely difficult to write these kind of things and not just end up saying the same two things over and over. So she's trying to be creative. She's trying to be evocative. I'm gonna choose to respect and honor that in this moment.
Also, it must be so, like, I'm trying to think about when I write and I'm doing all this, like, well, like, maybe this paragraph should go here, like, and like I wonder when you're writing this if you're just like, like, should they like get on the floor? Or, like, it just seems so like odd to think like very intently on writing,
right.
And also this, Rach, I thought you were gonna say in the whatever we call it, Rule 2B or something, where they sort of observe the length and are faintly nervous about it. In this case, she describes his dick as, I didn't know it was possible to find such a thing so stunning, like a work of art.
Thank you. Yeah, I did highlight that whole paragraph
there's a whole
dick
paragraph.
description.
No, I do think
was also so elegant.
An important corollary to Rule 2B is that for some reason it's a work of art. It's stunning. Couldn't be me, but sure.
You know what? I think the other 2/3 of the podcast, like, again, we're getting in there, and I thought we weren't going to really get in there, but here we are. But I will say, like, the sort of more penis forward of the group.
Yeah, as our token straight, Rachel, please speak out, speak your truth.
Wait, I'm pro.
But
what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah,
Will is also appreciates.
Oh, wait, and if you count my half, then we're actually...
Yeah, we're doing well.
I mean, your half doesn't seem to be sort of especially...
No, it's certainly more of a 25%.
Like a quarter these days. But,
so much for no more math, by the way.
Right. So anyways, I think, they often describe the female sex as, beautiful work of art, etc. So I think, hey, you know what? Sure.
Men's rights.
Can be a piece of art, work of art. Men's rights, yeah.
Ix made both,
Ix did make both.
Should we make the new thing instead of X's tits, X's dicks?
Ix dicks. I like that.
Carissa, if you're listening, we implore you to add that to the next book.
That comes out next week.
Yeah. So what I will say, again, sort of back to like how we're ticking off the boxes of the standard issue scene of the genre. Again, very considerable length, taking a sec to adjust. All of a sudden, amazing. We're pistoning. We're really going hard. You're usually going hard in the paint out there. And of course, our girlies, they actually get fired from their role as protagonists if they cannot have like a penetrative orgasm immediately. So yeah. We go from, oops, this hurts a little bit. This is a little, wow, this is until, and then all of a sudden we're having simultaneous sheathing orgasms, which I'm really happy for her. Okay, I am.
And then like a blackout, like a brief like fade to black, I feel like is often also required.
Yeah. So really happy for both of them. They had fun. I had fun.
Yeah, we all enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other like sort of observations or thoughts about that?
Well,
scene?
I was just sorry.
Go ahead, Will.
Dina. Okay. I was just gonna say I just like it's nothing worth going into, but there are just, a few moments where I feel like we touch on things that we've touched on before. So there's like this is rule whatever 4, but at one point Rain is described as a man undone. Which
That's what I was going to say, Will.
Yeah,
that's another classic of the genre, that they're undone.
They always have to be undone. There's a reference to the warm, solid wall of Rain's chest.
Of course.
I did note that.
Yeah.
A reference to him tasting like he smells, aka the sky.
Of course.
I missed that. That's a good one.
So sort of just, some little clues that were left throughout the book are just making their way in.
So, unfortunately, these good times must come to an end, as we knew that they were going to, which is really upsetting. Well,
Truly.
I should say they have a conversation, but our sexy time ends. But we do have some kind of intimate sharing of stories. We finally get Rain's backstory as they're sort of snuggling post-coital bliss phase.
Yes.
Well, we get a lot of his backstory, but obviously
Yeah, we
don't
sort
get
of get his
all of it.
backstory.
Yeah, we don't get all
certainly
of it, I
some
should
lies
say.
of omission happening here, but
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But let's kind of get the Cliff's Notes of Rain's story here. Okay, a long time ago, he was a guard, back when he was human. Guard in some, I don't know, army, whatever, navy, who can say. And he was shipwrecked, and most of the other people on the ship died, and he sort of washes ashore, and he's close to dying as well. And a stranger approaches him and asks if he wants to live, aka does he want to be turned? And Rain says that he had a wife at the time and a child on the way, so he agreed. Which, first of all, being the jealous queen that I am, got really upset even about this wife. I'm upset. I'm upset.
On Araya's behalf.
like, how dare he have a wife
long
100
dead
years
wife.
before I was even born?
Exactly.
No, honestly,
I
how
was
dare
upset.
he? Yeah.
But Araya's a bit more of like a mature queen than I am, and in this one regard, in that she was like kind of like, oh, I'm jealous, but that's stupid. I'm not.
But then it's like, okay, like clearly, well, I guess he was a human when he was into her, but as we'll see, clearly he's into humanish girls. He's got a type and she fits it.
Wow. Yeah. So the stranger who turned out to be a sicko. He kept Rain captive for about 70 years, I think. And I mean, Rain says that he was like sexually abusing him. Is that what we're taking away from that?
That's what I took away.
Totally. It actually gave me, do you guys remember when we were first talking about Rain and I always said he reminded me of Jamie from Outlander with like darker features? I feel like this kind of plot line, again, really reminded me of that character and that arc.
Right.
Jamie, kind of the example of hot redheaded man.
Right. The number one example.
In the fantasy extended universe.
Yeah.
Anywho, it turns out that this stranger had turned a fair amount of other people, and one of them was Nessanine.
Oh, there she is again.
There she is. Now we finally learn about Nessanine. Nessanine was the creepy guy's wife, and she was every bit as much of a prisoner as Rain was, in his words. And they fell in love, and she was the first kind vampire he'd ever met, and she introduced him to others who were like her. Sad.
I like that, he described, quote, she was a dreamer, kind but soft. She'd rather escape to the world she dreamed of than fight for this one. And I was like, same. That's why I read these books.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, damn, like sick burn.
No.
She was not built long for this world.
Yeah, it could be described that way, probably.
Yeah. And Araya asks him how he got out of that situation, and he's kind of vague at this point. He said, oh, the world he had built was collapsing under its own weight, blah, blah, blah. We don't really
was
get...
that like a metaphor, or was the building falling apart? I couldn't tell.
We don't get many details. Also, he compares Nessanine to Misha, and I am once again wondering why he and Misha were never an item.
I hope we do get an answer, and I hope my girl Misha's gay. That's what I'm hoping. I hope we get a little more action happening here.
Oh, yeah. A little bit more, yeah.
I can't get my hopes up for that. She's too
she's
close
too
to the
important
plot.
of a character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to get your heart broken.
I like there's a nice little moment here in which Araya's, I think, elitist, like Nepo baby elitism showed again, in which Rain is talking about how he could have been a blacksmith or a soldier, and she's like, you could have been a chef. And he was like, maybe I should have been a chef. And she's like, it did seem nice. It also seemed smaller than him. It's like, why can't you be a chef? Like, why does he have to live this like sick and twisted? Yeah, she's very much in her gunner phase.
So yeah, she does get to know more about him, but obviously doesn't get the whole story. But alas, nightfall comes.
Well, can we just talk a bit about that? Because she very much is in this, I think she described something like, we're hacking pieces of our heart out for each other. And it's just not true. Like, she is, but he is being quite withholding.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
I guess TBD, they're not TBD, to be discussed. I guess that's also TBD. To be discussed shortly in a future ep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that does feel kind of manipulative, though, now that I'm thinking about it.
Like, she's having this whole, it's just weird because I think when I read it for the first time, obvious usual caveats, did not pick up on any of the whatever with Rain, yada yada yada, but like, she's like, this is my last night on Earth, this is like a man I've just decided I've fallen in love with. It's such an intense and whatever moment, and then from his perspective you have to wonder, he's just sort of like, all right, well, I guess I gotta talk to her until we have this next trial. It's like a little unfair, but
slightly unfair characterization, but not entirely without
directionally correct.
A point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not ideal.
And I think we might see that she doesn't think that's ideal that he withheld that from her either.
Right. That's what we get. Am I right, ladies?
Yep.
What we get. Little bits, little breadcrumbs, little scraps.
Even mid-pillow talk, you gotta just yank it out of them.
Anyhow, now they have to, like, go to the last trial, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
They left the room for the last time and stopped and looked at each other. It has been a pleasure, princess, he said. I thought about kissing him one last time. Thought about winding my arms around his neck and never letting go, etc., etc. But she didn't do any of those things that she said.
Because they're gunners and they both want to win this tournament when they could just run off together, but fine.
It's true. She just says, it's been, shrug, tolerable, I guess.
I was going to say, this is like another 23-year-old thing where you sort of substitute being sassy for having a personality. You know?
No, yeah, I certainly did that. And it's like, you definitely can't say anything earnest. And so you just are like, well, I'll just have to say the opposite of everything and and act cool. But he loves it.
That's what we get.
You know, he does his little, there she is.
Well, she does let a smirk crinkle her eye. Well, actually, it's without her permission, she says.
Yeah, without her permission.
Her eye.
He's sort of giving me, who's that actor that Taylor Swift just absolutely destroyed because he always dates people her age?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's sort of giving Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, wow.
It's like, well, I just like, what could you possibly have? This is an ongoing gripe with the big age difference, but I don't have anything to talk to with like a 23-year-old right now. After 200 more years of living, there's even less I could talk to them about, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like the number one. When I'm like going through and reading these books and I'm suspending my disbelief about dragons existing and like all of these things, number one thing is like people with a multi-100-year age gap are destined for one another. And it's like first on the list. You got to like check it off. You got to be like, okay, throwing that out the window.
Yeah, move on. Yeah.
And here we go. Now, listen, if it's a 15-year age gap, a 20-year age gap, gross, creepy,
disgusting.
200.
But
200. Now we're talking.
That century mark, and it's kind of like fine.
Yeah. No, this is the number one. Like, we need to have an entire episode to unpack this at some point because I have so many things that I want to say right now that are probably like, there's a lot. But on the other hand, we could just kind of block that out and just, we could just go with it also.
Yeah. And again, at least she's not 17.
Exactly.
True.
We'll take
She's
take the scraps we can get.
Like most other series like this, she would have already like saved the world and become queen by 23.
That's true.
Like her life's accomplishments would be over.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they arrive to the final trial. Angelica and Ibrahim are both on the struggle bus. Ibrahim has a lot of injuries, can hardly walk. The two, Angelica and Ibrahim, walk through the little door into the magical door into the trial. And then it was only us. Everything I couldn't say threatened to drown me. Words weren't enough. Yet without my permission, just before we crossed the threshold, I grabbed Rain's hand.
Wait, without her own permission?
Without her permission? Again.
Maybe these are the
hard,
senseless dualities that we've been wondering.
Yeah, these are her senseless dualities.
Okay. Yeah.
We apologize, Mariah, for making fun of them. We didn't pick it up the first read.
Yeah. It's sweet. They hold hands and they turn and look at each other for a split second of hesitation. And she says, fantasies, fairy tales, useless dreams. I smashed them on the marble ground, pulled my hand away, and walked through the threshold.
Dun dun.
Healthy. That's like emotional repression, like, I don't know, 301. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like the advanced seminar.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And off they go into the final trial.
Where I'm sure one of them is just going to easily kill the other without any hesitation or trouble.
Definitely.
Although I do think this chapter captured well. I'm trying to think of what. Not quite the stakes, but I ran track in cross country
very
in
similar
high school, and I hated races. I would dread them. To this day, there's nothing I really have dreaded as much as I dreaded those races. And I had a similar feeling where this looming thing is coming and there's nothing you can do about it, and you just sort of continue on with your day, and you're like, how am I just eating breakfast right now?
Right.
I'm gonna feel terrible in like an hour. It's gonna be so bad. And I feel like this kind of captured that energy really well, where just like time moves on and you don't really have a choice, and to some extent it's not worth thinking about it, and
you're not prepping for the moment. You're just distracting yourself as much as possible until
So we wish them the best of luck in their battles to come. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think this is a good place to end it for today. And then
a cliffhanger's
cliffhanger. What could possibly happen in this final trial? We'll talk about that on our next episode. I can't wait.
Yeah.
There's some real drama that's about to happen. I feel like we got to enjoy ourselves this episode and just, talk about the consummation. What was Rachel's word? The bone zone? The bone zone. Mm-hmm. But we'll get back into the action and the drama next episode.
And as always, thank you for listening. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok. Send us an email if you want to glow us up. If you have any critiques, don't do that.
No, actually, no. We accept critiques via email. But if you want to give us a 5-star review where you listen to your podcast, we only like positive feedback there.
That's true. And as always, thank you for our theme music to Rachel's sophomore year Paramore, Steve.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Sophomore Steve, thank you for the music.
Whatever.
Good Air Music. Good Air Music on Spotify. Yeah.
Check it out.
He's great.